Hello everybody, I hope you're all very well. Today we're going to be looking at a guitar that I honestly never thought I would be lucky enough to come into contact with. I have here, excluding the ring light, the 2025 reissue of the Framus Hootenanny Acoustic 12-string guitar. Isn't that something? Let you have a proper little look here. There's lots of lights in this room, which I can't avoid, I'm afraid. You can see my big fat ring light there. This guitar has the most incredible history and backstory attached to it. The guitar was most famously used by John Lennon of the Beatles for a handful of some Beatles classics, including Help, You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. The guitar was actually used for a performance of that song in the Help movie. Norwegian Wood, It's Only Love. Which is personally one of my favourite songs. I've Just Seen a Face, the list goes on. The point here is that the guitar is on some very famous songs and has contributed to a lot of the sonic makeup of these songs, which we will explore in a bit more depth shortly. The other incredible story about this guitar, which actually directly correlates to why this guitar was reissued by Framus. For many years, these guitars were incredibly hard to get hold of, very hard to find, and if you did find one, they would be very expensive to buy. We're talking thousands. And that's obviously because it's a Beatle guitar, but also because the guitars were discontinued somewhere around the 60s, 70s, I'm not entirely sure, maybe around 1967, don't quote me on that. But these guitars for a long time were collector's items. You couldn't buy a new one. And this is where the revival of the Hootenanny starts to take shape. Somewhere between 1965 and 1967, John Lennon's Hootenanny that he played with the Beatles went missing. And it was never seen again for the best part of 60 years. Until it was found in an attic in the UK in 2024. It was then sold at auction for $2.85 million, which actually makes it the 5th highest priced guitar to be sold at auction. And then the following year, with a little help from a bit of good press and some pleases to Framus, they finally reissued this iconic guitar, and the world is better for it. So as I say, there's a great history attached to this guitar. More importantly, however, this guitar is incredible to play. It has a wonderful, warm chime to it that essentially the guitar is famous for. One thing that always gives me such a big kick when playing guitars that have been used on famous songs is being able to physically hear the sound of a famous record in your hands. I'll give you an example of what I mean. The song Help by the Beatles is largely driven by the sound of the Framus. What I'm going to show you now is an isolated recording of the Framus taken from the original Help recording, and then compare it to my recording of the Framus, and you'll be able to hear very clearly the similarities between the two. So I've got two EQ curves here. The bottom one, this one here, is the EQ for my Framus, my recording of the Framus. And then this top EQ here is the EQ for John's recording, John Lennon's recording of the Framus on the song Help. And what I want to show you is that if we swap between the two recordings, you will see that they actually both hit at similar points on the EQ curve. So we'll start with John's. So if you notice, if I play that again, you see there's a lot of action coming in around the sort of 200 region here and around the 100 region there. So got a little spike at about 2K there. Now if you compare this to my recording, which is this, now obviously they're not going to be identical. They were recorded in completely different spaces with different mics, different technology in a completely different decade. We're talking 6 decades on from when John recorded his at this point. And yet, if you look at my EQ curve here at the bottom, it's hitting in the same place as the stem is, around that 100, 200 mark there. Which I really think is remarkable. I mean, that consistency, you know, we're talking 60 years between these two builds, essentially. We're getting that kind of consistency on an EQ curve. It's pretty remarkable. The same can also be applied to It's Only Love, again by the Beatles. Here's an isolated recording of John Lennon's take with the Framus for that song. then here's my recording of that song with the Framus. There is something incredibly satisfying about being able to hear the sound of a song in your hands, which I can't quite put into words in truth. Now, over to the guitar itself. Outside of the Beatle context, this guitar stands on its own 2 feet, no question. It makes a great sound. It's a fresh sound that immediately makes me want to create. I've not heard a 12-string project in this way before. It's a very unique sound, very Spanishy, very folky. And the reality is, new sounds equals new ideas. I've written 2 whole songs on this guitar since it was sent to me by Framus. The chords for which I will play now so that you can hear it outside of a Beatle context, accompanied by some on-screen info about the guitar. And there you have it, the Framus Hootenanny 12-string acoustic guitar made famous by John Lennon, back and better than ever. The bottom line is that this guitar just makes a great sound. It's a full sound, it projects beautifully, it's very balanced, no drop-offs, it's incredibly well built. I'm honestly blown away by how nice and comfortable this guitar is to play. For a 12-string, 12 strings are notoriously hard to play, wide necks, generally very difficult. I've only got small hands as well. Bane of my life as a guitarist. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. And I would like to say as well a very, very big thank you to Nicholas Wilfer, the CEO of Framus and the grandson of the company founder, Fred Wilfer, who generously sent me this guitar today. As always, guys, please drop a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one. See you later.